and then he went to alchemy to look for the antecedents to it.
Exactly.
I mean, from their point of view, they didn't have any honoring of him having these dreams and coming through it spiritually or psychically or anything.
Not at all. Not at all.
So from their point of view, they were right on as far as that goes.
Yes. Yeah. That's probably the way they understood it. He just ended up convincing them of their own presuppositions and prejudices. Why would you bother with these obscure esoteric traditions that had been already long since discredited by science, unless you were neurotic or there was something wrong with you? You weren't living in the modern world. You were going back to the past and getting stuck there. But so that would have been, yeah, you're right. That would have been the criticism of Freudians. So that's the basic history of alchemy, just in a very brief outline phase. And what I want now to do then is to go into the theory of alchemy. Alchemy, as we've said, depends on Aristotle, and particularly Aristotle's theory of the four elements. So it would be worth recapping Aristotle's vision of nature. Go back to our mandala drawings. Now the four elements arise out of four fundamental principles. They are not the elements themselves. They are abstract principles that the elements emerge out of. Hot, cold, wet, and dry. And each one of these four qualities has a particular direction in space. Heat travels up. Cold goes straight down. Moisture is horizontal, and dry has no direction at all. Now, as a result of this, these combinations of these qualities give rise to the four elements. Circumambulating to the left here, starting with the lightest of the elements, we have fire, which is a combination of hot and dry. And because we just have the one arrow pointing up, fire is the lightest element, and it is struggling to get back to its rightful place in the heavens. All the elements in the Aristotelian vision are simply motivated by their desire to go to their rightful place in creation. The heavier elements are seeking to get to the earth because they're heavier, and the two lighter elements, fire and air, are trying to get back to the heavens where they belong. So we have fire as the lightest, and out of hot and wet, we give rise to air. It has the little weight here because it's slightly heavier. And then out of wet and cold, we have water. And then out of cold and dry, we have earth. The direction of fire is straight up. The direction of earth is straight down. So they both have the arrows with no mitigating vectors. The direction of air is up and horizontal. Air goes up and it expands as it goes up. Water goes down and also moves horizontally as it goes down. So those are the directions of the elements going from lightest to heaviest. Now the whole theory of alchemy is that everything that is in the physical world is a manifestation of different combinations of these four elements. And because each of these elements share these qualities, they can be transmuted into each other. And so theoretically it should be possible then to transmute base metals into gold. And this will be easier to see if I do this horizontally. These elements are interconvertible into each other because they share one of these qualities. Now, for example, if we were to apply fire to water and remove the principle of cold and change that to hot, and we have hot and moist, and we get steam. You've applied heat and you just changed the cold to the hot, and so that transforms it into air. In the same case with fire, if you remove the heat of fire, that is to say, if something burning cools off, and this heat is removed and becomes cold, and you have cold and dry, which is earth, and this is ash. Ash is cold, dry, and it's a form of earth. And then and one other one. And then ice. Ice can be formed out of well, you get the idea. Ice is in there somewhere. But just by transforming these principles, you can transform substances into each other. And with respect to the metals, each of the metals is made up of various proportions of these four elements. Gold, for example, contains an abundance of fire. Lead contains an abundance of earth. And so if we were to write these metals out in terms of the noblest and the grossest, or the heaviest, we would go, you'd have gold at the top, and gold contains a predominance of fire within it. And then our sequence going from silver is next. And the metals correspond to the 7 planets, and so the same signs double for the planets as are assigned to the metals. Silver, also known as Mercury, and then copper, lead is the heaviest, contains the most earth, has a symbol for Saturn. So each of these metals, lead corresponds to Saturn, tin corresponds to Jupiter, iron to Mars, copper to Venus, quicksilver to Mercury, silver to the Moon, and gold to the Sun. And so this is the hierarchy of the nobility of the metals. Now the metals, remember, if left of themselves in the earth, will gradually ripen and mature through this series, and eventually they will become gold if left to themselves and if the conditions are ideal. So alchemy was thought to be the lower astronomy because the 7 metals are to the 7 planets just as the 4 elements are the 12 signs of the zodiac. These are the correlations, and so this is the principle as above, so below, which is the principle that we hear reiterated time and time again by the alchemists. And these are the correlations. Now there's an interesting trick here with respect to Mercury. Mercury is a metal, but it's also a principle. Mercury is the indwelling soul of all of the metals. Mercury is the living presence of the metals. So the Latin is usually Mercurius,